Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're shifting gears a bit.
Yeah, we're definitely taking a very specific angle today.
We are, and I want you to do a little visualization exercise with me right off the bat. Forget that you're commuting right now, or at the gym, or sitting at your desk.
Right.
I want you to imagine you are walking into a high-end, glass-walled conference room. You're in a major city, and you're surrounded by service business owners. So we're talking agency heads, consultants, legal experts, maybe a few high-level accountants.
The kind of room where the coffee is actually good and the notebooks are that heavy, expensive paper.
Exactly. And everyone in this room they've paid $5,000 to be here for a strategy workshop. The tension is pretty palpable because the topic on the whiteboard, it isn't fluff.
It's not about posting more on LinkedIn.
No, it's not how to write better emails. The topic is literally, how do we actually scale a service business without imploding? And the answer we're exploring today, the entire focus of this workshop, is AI automation.
And we really have to be crystal clear about this right from the jump. We are not talking about playing around with ChatGPT.
Right.
We aren't talking about generating funny images of cats or, writing a poem for your spouse.
No, we are talking about the nervous system of the business, the plumbing.
Precisely. We are looking at the nuts and bolts, the systems that actually run a service business.
And we've got a massive stack of sources today to guide us through this workshop scenario. We're pulling really heavily from the methodology of Liam Ottley. He's the founder of Morningside AI, and he really pioneered the agency model in this specific space.
Yeah, his frameworks are foundational here.
They really are. Plus, we've got market data from Zapier's 2026 report, and we're layering in some really critical search visibility insights from HubSpot, specifically regarding how AI changes the way clients even find you in the first place.
Which is a huge shift.
It is. So our goal is pretty ambitious today. We essentially want to hand you the playbook for moving a service business from chaos to order, and then from order to actual scale.
Which is what everyone in that $5,000 room wants.
Exactly.
Welcome to SBAI, Service Business AI, where modern service businesses scale smarter with artificial intelligence.
So let's start with the opportunity itself. Because Liam Ottley describes this specific moment in the market with a phrase that I just haven't been able to get out of my head. He calls it the dinner bell.
It's a very evocative image, isn't it?
Yeah.
The dinner bell moment is basically this. You have millions of businesses out there that are absolutely starving for AI implementation.
Yeah.
They know they need it. They read about it in the Wall Street Journal every morning. They know it's the future.
Right.
But they have zero idea how to actually cook the meal. They are hungry, but they can't cook.
I do want to push on that starving idea, though, because is that just hype? We hear a lot about how everyone is using AI now. It feels like every app I open on my phone has a little sparkle icon next to the search bar.
Right, but that's the surface level. Everyone is chatting with AI. Very few businesses are actually running on AI.
Ah, okay. That's a big distinction.
It is. And the numbers backing this up are actually wild. If you look at the supply and demand data for this market, it is a complete fundamental imbalance. For every single AI automation agency or expert out there right now, there are roughly 1,133 small businesses,
Wait.
companies, doing between $500K and $10 million in revenue that need help.
Wait, run that by me again? 1,000?
11,133 potential clients for every one vendor.
That is staggering. I mean, usually in a mature market, you're fighting for scraps. You're undercutting your competitors by like 5% just to secure a basic contract.
Exactly. Compare that AI ratio to digital marketing.
Yeah.
In digital marketing, the ratio is about one agency for 31 businesses.
Wow.
That is a red ocean. It's saturated, it's bloody, your margins are razor thin because you're essentially a commodity. AI automation right now is wide open water.
Which explains the billionaire perspective on this.
Yeah, that's where you have guys like Mark Cuban and Kevin O'Leary saying this is the #1 sector to start a business in right now. The gap between the need for AI and the ability to actually execute it is just enormous.
Okay, so the demand is clearly there. The dinner bell is ringing loudly. But we've been hearing about the quote-unquote AI revolution for a few years now. And I feel like we're seeing a shift in the tone of the conversation lately. Are we finally moving from the, wow, look what this can do phase to the so what phase?
That is exactly what's happening. And honestly, it's a really healthy sign of maturity for the market. We are shifting from the early adopters.
The people who just want to play with the new toy.
Right, the visionaries. We're
Yeah.
shifting from them into the early majority. These are the pragmatists. They don't want cool tricks. They don't care about large language model benchmarks or parameter counts. They want ROI.
They want to know, if I pay you 50 grand, does this actually save me money or make me money?
Precisely. The initial shine is gone. Companies are realizing they can't just plug in a tool and expect magic to happen. And there's another layer to this adoption curve that the HubSpot data points out, which is how customers are actually finding these service businesses in the first place.
Right.
This brings up a concept called AEO.
AEO. Okay, we all know SEO. Search engine optimization. We've all spent 20 years obsessing over keywords and backlinks. What is the A?
Answer engine optimization. This is huge for service businesses. We used to optimize for Google search keywords, right? You wanted to rank for best lawyer in Austin.
Sure.
But now customers are going to ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude, and they're asking, who is the best legal consultant for tech startups in Austin, and specifically why?
And the difference there is that the AI gives you a specific synthesized answer. It's not a list of 10 blue links where I have to click through and do the research myself.
Exactly. It does the synthesis for you. If your business isn't optimized for those answer engines, meaning you don't have the citations, the structured data, the exact digital footprint that the AI models trust, you're literally invisible.
You don't exist in
They
them.
don't exist. You aren't just losing generic website traffic, you're losing the highest intent leads on the internet.
Because if someone asks an AI for a recommendation and the AI gives one, they are essentially getting a trusted referral. They trust the machine's logic.
Yes, and the data proves it. HubSpot found that AI-referred leads convert 23 times better than traditional organic traffic.
Wait, 23 times, not 23% better.
23 times better.
That's insane.
It makes sense if you think about the user behavior, though. If you're using an AI search engine, you're having a back-and-forth conversation, you're refining your query. You might say, no, I need someone a bit cheaper, or no, I need someone who speaks Spanish.
Right.
By the time the AI actually recommends a final solution, you have already done all the heavy vetting inside the model. You aren't browsing anymore, you are ready to buy.
That is a massive competitive advantage for the early adopters who figure out AEO. But let's flip the coin here. We need to do a reality check. Because despite all this crazy demand and these sky-high conversion rates, the success rate for actually implementing this automation stuff isn't exactly 100%.
Far from it.
In fact, the sources paint a pretty grim picture if you don't know what you're doing.
They do. And this is the stat that usually silences the room in those $5,000 strategy workshops. According to MIT studies referenced in our sources, about 95% of AI initiatives fail to deliver ROI.
95%. That is incredibly discouraging. If I'm a business owner, I hear that and I want to just keep my checkbook closed and wait. Why is the failure rate so astronomical?
It sounds bad, yes. But it's actually the exact opportunity for the true experts. They fail because companies dive straight into development. They get hyped about a specific tool, they hire a random developer, and they build a custom bot without ever fixing their underlying processes first.
They are trying to automate a mess.
Yes, and speeding up chaos is not a strategy, it just makes the chaos happen faster.
Right.
But the 5% of companies that are succeeding, they are seeing massive ROI. And the global infrastructure is being laid right now for this to scale. Zapier and McKinsey project that AI data centers will need $7 trillion in investment by 2030. The rails are being built. The software demand is inevitable.
So the productivity gains are real, assuming you aren't part of that 95% failure rate.
Absolutely. We're seeing data showing that AI agents can drive a 25% productivity increase across the board. For a service business, think about consultants, accountants, ad agencies where you are literally selling your time and your expertise. A 25% margin boost is the difference between struggling to make payroll and scaling to an exit.
It really is. But to get that 25%, you have to deal with what you call the mess. The source material refers to this as the chaos versus order problem. Let's unpack that, because I think most service business owners, if they're being truly honest with themselves, would admit their internal operations are a bit chaotic.
It's usually organized chaos at best. Client data is scattered across random Google Drives, communication is split between Slack and email, and you've got employees using what we call shadow AI.
Shadow AI, that sounds ominous, like the dark web or something.
No, it's much more mundane than that, but it's equally risky for a business. Shadow AI is when your employees are secretly using ChatGPT on their personal accounts to do their daily work, simply because you haven't given them a secure, corporate tool.
Ah, because they know the tool helps them work faster, but the company policy just hasn't caught up yet.
Exactly.
So they're pasting sensitive client contracts into a public chatbot just to summarize them.
Yes, they are, which
Wow.
is an absolute GDPR and SOC2 compliance nightmare. But beyond the security risk, it creates massive data silos. If Bob in accounting comes up with a brilliant prompt conversation that solves a major reconciliation problem, nobody else in the company sees it.
Because it's locked in his personal browser history.
Right, so the very first step of this strategy workshop isn't building a bot, it's cleaning house. You cannot scale chaos. Automation forces you to clean up your data structure.
Which makes sense.
And this leads directly to what Leah Motley calls the knowledge gap. Service business owners are paid in direct proportion to how much more they know than their clients. AI allows you to widen that gap rapidly by processing information faster.
But if you don't use it...
If you don't use it and your competitor does, they're going to automate all the boring stuff and leave you in the dust.
I love that you mentioned the boring stuff, because I think the media trains people to expect AI to do the creative genius work, write my marketing strategy from scratch, design my new brand logo. But the sources suggest the real money is actually in the drudgery.
There is an absolute goldmine in the drudgery. We're talking about soul-crushing manual data entry, weekly report writing, let me look that up for you, administrative tasks.
Right.
That is where the immediate ROI lives. Because, frankly, nobody wants to do it, and humans are naturally bad at it. We make typos, we get distracted, AI doesn't get tired.
So if we're sitting in this workshop, and I'm a business owner, or maybe I'm the consultant trying to help these owners, how do I actually execute this? What is the strategic play to avoid being in that 95% failure bracket?
This is where we get into the Morningside method, which is Otley's specific framework. It really separates the winners from the losers in this space, and it has 3 distinct phases. First is education.
Education. That feels a bit soft for a highly technical implementation. Why not just start building?
Because if the leadership team doesn't truly understand what AI can and cannot do, the implementation will fail, period. If the CEO thinks AI is literal magic that can read minds and fix bad business models, they'll be severely disappointed. You have to reset their expectations from magic to math.
Okay, so you don't just hire a developer, hide them in the basement, and say, go build AI. You have to teach the C-suite first.
Right, get everyone on the same page. Second phase is identification. You have to audit the business and find the actual bottlenecks. And then the third phase is implementation.
Okay.
But here's the critical strategic advice from the sources, and I cannot stress this enough. Do not start with a moonshot.
But everyone wants the moonshot. They want the mythical AI that runs the entire company while they sip margaritas on a beach in Tulum.
I know, and that is exactly how you lose client trust and burn $100,000 in development costs. You want quick wins, or what Otley calls layups. You want a very targeted system, maybe costing $20 to $50K, that solves one specific painful bottleneck.
Give me a concrete example of a layup versus a moonshot. What does a layup look like in the wild?
Okay, a moonshot is a client saying, build me an AI that handles all my tier 1 customer service, negotiates vendor prices, and dynamically onboards new clients.
Too complex.
Way too complex. Too many variables, too many edge cases. A layup, on the other hand, is a voice agent that specifically handles missed calls after hours, takes a standard message, and books an appointment directly onto your calendar.
Simple, defined, and incredibly high value.
Exactly. Because it stops you from losing revenue on missed leads immediately. Or another layup is an internal document query system, so your staff stops spending 3 hours a day digging through Google Drive looking for old case files.
Right.
It's the difference between trying to build a rocket ship from scratch and just buying a faster car. The car gets you to the destination today.
That makes perfect sense. Establish trust with a small win, prove the ROI, and then you can move to the more complex stuff. Now let's talk about the actual people building this plumbing. You mentioned earlier that we aren't necessarily looking for traditional software engineers.
This is a really counterintuitive point for a lot of tech-focused founders. If you go to Upwork right now and search for an AI developer, you probably do not want a pure computer science PhD to build your standard business automation. You want what the industry calls the AAA developer.
AAA?
Yeah, AI automation agency developer. This is a hybrid role. It's someone who knows enough traditional code like Python or JavaScript to connect custom APIs, but who primarily works in low-code platforms. Tools like Make or Zapier or VoiceFlow.
Why that specific mix? Why not just hard code it from scratch so it's fully custom? Isn't custom code more robust?
It can be, yes, but it's also brittle and slow. The massive advantage of the hybrid developer is speed and flexibility. A traditional coder might spend 3 weeks writing a custom script for a CRM integration. A low-code developer can drag and drop that exact same workflow in an hour.
An hour versus 3 weeks. I mean, that's a massive difference in your billing and your timeline.
In this game, speed of implementation is everything. These hybrids are incredibly valuable. They routinely bill at $50 to $70 an hour because they can iterate so fast. If the client's business process changes next month, they can update the automation in minutes. If it's hard-coded, you have to pay to refactor the whole code base.
Okay, so that's the who. Now let's look at the how. There is a piece of strategic advice in the sources regarding niche selection that I think is really important for anyone trying to build an agency in this space.
Absolutely vital. Do not be a general AI agency.
Yeah.
That is the hardest possible road you can take. You want to be the AI automation expert for chiropractors or for immigration lawyers.
Because then you aren't reinventing the wheel every single time you sign a client.
Exactly. Think about the unit economics of it.
Yeah.
If you build a fully custom solution for every new client, you have zero leverage. Your margins will stay flat. But if you build a brilliant patient intake automation system for one chiropractor and you perfect it, you can turn around and sell that exact same solution to 20 different chiropractors across the country.
You've done the heavy R&D once, and you get paid for it 20 times.
And you can use cheaper junior developers for the delivery phase because the blueprint is already done. But, and this is key, you can still charge high value-based pricing.
Because to that specific chiropractor, the problem is still huge.
Right. They're paying for the business result, not your hours.
It's basically the difference between being a custom architect who starts from a blank page every time and a luxury home builder who has a proven, highly desirable blueprint.
And blueprints scale. Custom development doesn't scale nearly as well. Products scale.
We really need to touch on the risks of ignoring this entirely. We've talked a lot about the massive opportunity, but what happens to the service business owner in that room who says, you know what, I'm just going to wait until 2027. I want to see how this all shakes out before I invest.
Well, the first immediate risk is security, which we already touched on with the shadow AI problem. If you don't actively provide your employees with a secure, sanctioned AI environment, they will use a public one, which means your proprietary confidential client data is being fed into public training models every single day.
So doing nothing is actually an active, ongoing security risk.
100%. Doing nothing is a choice. Then there is the efficiency gap. If your direct competitor automates their client onboarding, taking it from a 5-day manual slog of emails back and forth to a 5-minute automated flow, they can instantly undercut you on price. Or they can just outservice you on speed and client experience.
And in a service business, speed is very often a proxy for quality in the client's mind.
Absolutely. And eventually you just become irrelevant.
You become invisible. Because if you aren't tracking your AI visibility, how your brand actually appears in those ChatGPT and Claude answers, you are bleeding market share to competitors who are actively optimizing for it. You're fighting for scraps in the old Google search ecosystem while the entirely new market is happening somewhere else.
That's exactly.
Okay, let's get very tactical for a moment as we head toward the end here. We promised an action plan for this workshop. We've scared everyone sufficiently with the 95% failure rates. Now let's actually help them. If I'm a service business owner, or I'm an aspiring agency owner trying to help these businesses, how do I safely start? There's a specific concept from Otley about the exploration milestone.
This is probably the most brilliant tactical advice in the entire stack of sources. It solves the single biggest problem in client work, which is vague expectations.
The classic, I want a chatbot that acts exactly like our senior partner.
Right. That request is subjective. It's incredibly vague. Do not ever sign a $50,000 contract for that outcome. You will fail. Instead, you sign a small, paid exploration milestone, usually around $800 to $1,500.
So it's essentially a paid test drive.
It's a feasibility test. You take a sample of the client's actual data, you build a very quick prototype over a few days, and you see if the current AI models can actually do what the client wants with their messy data. This immediately filters out the tire kickers who aren't serious about paying you.
Right.
But more importantly, it protects you from client hallucinations.
Client hallucinations, I love that term. That's great.
That's where the client expects the AI to just magically know things that aren't in their database. If their internal data is messy, the AI will fail the test. You want to find that out for $800 on week 1. Not after you've hired a whole team and spent 3 months trying to force it to work. It protects both sides of the deal.
That is such smart protection. It turns a massive financial risk into a very small, calculated experiment. So let's zoom out as we wrap up today. We've gone from the dinner bell opportunity to the chaos of the data to the tactical execution. What is the grand evolution here? If I'm listening to this and I want to position my career or my agency for 2026 and beyond, where's this all going?
The evolutionary path is becoming very clear. You might start today as an automation specialist, just fixing little Zapier integrations here and there. Then you evolve into an actual agency, building larger systems. But the real end game is becoming an AI transformation partner.
That sounds a bit fancy, but distinguish that from just being a really good agency.
An agency delivers a specific deliverable. Here is your customer service bot, invoice attached. A transformation partner actually guides the business through the entire operational culture change. The goal isn't just to save 10 minutes on an email draft. It is to guide a legacy business safely through the transition into the AI age. You are helping them navigate the process re-engineering, the data security strategy, and the staff training.
You're their pilot through the transition.
You're their pilot. The technology is already here, the dinner bell is ringing, but the standard operating process is what's missing. The winners in 2026 won't be the agencies with the cleverest prompt engineers. They will be the ones who can walk into a highly chaotic business, bring order to that chaos, and build the infrastructure for actual growth.
That is a really powerful place to leave the source material, bringing order to chaos. But before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Something that builds on all this but takes it a step further. We've talked a lot about automating internal operations. But think about what happens when every service business has these AI agents running their buying and selling.
Oh, agent to agent.
Exactly. Very soon, B2B sales isn't going to be humans taking humans out to lunch. It's going to be your company's AI procurement agent directly negotiating with a vendor's AI sales agent based on system rules.
Completely automated negotiations.
Right. And if your data is a mess and your processes aren't automated, your bot literally won't be able to talk to their bot. You won't just be inefficient, you will be entirely locked out of the future economy.
That is the ultimate cost of chaos right there.
It really is. So we've thrown a lot at you today. This was a dense download, market stats, 95% failure rates, the Morningside method, hiring AAA hybrid developers.
Yeah, here's a full $5,000 workshop.
If you take one actionable thing away from this deep dive, I want you to do this. Look at your own business today or look at your main client's business and identify just one boring process, not the sexy creative strategy stuff, the boring, manual, I hate doing this every Friday task.
The exact thing that makes your staff roll their eyes when they log in.
Find that task. That is your primary candidate for a quick win layup. That is exactly where you start. Don't build the moonshot. Fix a leaky faucet first.
And once you fix that one faucet, you'll clearly see the path to automating everything else.
Thank you for joining us in the conference room today. The Deep Dive team is signing off. We'll catch you on the next one.